Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
Look, what is that? The abnormal phenomenon caused by Lin Yu's upgrade immediately attracted the attention of the entire primitive world and other surrounding realms. Even the lords who were participating in the invasion and killing of monsters turned around. This is an upgrade vision. It seems like someone is upgrading to the 11th level. Look in this direction. It's inside the primitive world. Why is it the primitive world again? Hasn't there been one before? Someone has risen to the 11th level so quickly. There were exclamations from all realms, especially those of the 11th level lords, whose eyes flashed with strange expressions. As for the senior officials of the primitive world, they looked at each other and rushed directly in the direction of the vision. Shenyao, this direction seems to be within your empire. The Emperor Tianqiong, who was responsible for guarding the border, said to the Emperor Shenyao beside him. In my empire. Emperor Shenyao was slightly startled and couldn't help but look at the green light pillar rising into the sky. Sure enough, it was within the territory of his Shenyao empire. After sensing the majestic breath of life contained on it, his expression suddenly changed. Damn it, it's that kid. I'll go back and take a look. I'll leave it to brother Tianqiong here. After saying a few words, he traveled directly through space and rushed back towards the Shenyao Empire. The Sky Emperor looked at the direction he left in the radiance of life, with great solemnity. Then he withdrew his gaze and said to the 11th level guards around him, "You guys should keep an eye on everything and never let people from other realms come in. I will inform the other emperors right away." Clear. With a response, those people immediately disappeared and went to the edge of the boundary to keep a lookout. The birth of the 11th level lord will inevitably attract the attention of many realms, and people will be sent to inquire about the news. After all, everyone hopes that the number of emperors in their realm will increase. Although the worlds have now been completely integrated, the antagonistic relationship that has always been there will not simply disappear. Not to mention that there is a completely hostile realm alliance on the opposite side, looking at him with eager eyes. According to the agreement, the Emperor cannot take action against the lords below. I hope they can abide by the agreement. Emperor Tianqiong murmured in a low voice, then disappeared and went to various places to inform other emperors. The news that an 11th level lord was born again in the primitive world was like a hurricane, instantly sweeping through the surrounding areas and spreading to the entire Wanji continent. Soon, people from all realms began to rush towards Yuan, wanting to find out about the newly promoted 11th level. However, Lin You, who was in Shenyu Principality, had already anticipated all this, so he did not panic and continued to upgrade with peace of mind. When the light of life on the world tree enveloped the entire Shenyu Principality, a vast force surged through his body, making his whole body's momentum continue to rise. Together with the world tree and the territory and the original universe, it is also growing rapidly. The branches and leaves spread out like a big umbrella, covering almost half of the country's capital, and the breath of life emerges crazily. It's the king. The king is upgrading. It's really in the direction of the capital. Damn it. So our principality is going to become a kingdom. Shenyu Kingdom. Now we are all old lords in the kingdom. Haha. Upgrading to a kingdom. I wonder if a few principality kings will be promoted. I look forward to it. Compared to the undercurrents outside, the entire Shenyu Principality was in jubilation, and everyone was excitedly discussing this matter. The lords of other surrounding principalities were both envious and regretful. If I had known this, I should have moved the territory to the Shenyu Principality. Unexpectedly, in just over half a year, the Holy Blessed King had already been promoted to the 11th level and established a kingdom. The identities are simply worlds apart. Those 9th level lords, who have moved to the Shenyu Principality a long time ago, must have their faces distorted with smiles. Right. After all, when every kingdom is born, they usually support their trusted 9th level lords to establish a principality. That is to say, now those 9th level lords in the Shenyu Principality will give birth to several 10th level lords. Just thinking about it makes people jealous. And at this time, Lin Yu's upgrade is finally coming to an end. With a boom, the life breath in the entire territory suddenly exploded, turning into countless light spots and falling from the sky. Then the citizens in Huangsha City discovered that after coming into contact with those light spots, whether they had serious illnesses or wounds, they were all recovering at a speed that was noticeable to the naked eye. Even the old men with half their feet in the soil were rejuvenated, and suddenly became much younger. Immediately afterwards, Lin You in the territory was shocked. I only felt that the 10 fragments of the godhead in my body were merging rapidly, and finally merged into a completed crystal, bursting out with a terrifying breath of life. Then reminders sounded in his mind one after another. Congratulations! Your territory has been successfully upgraded. Current level, 11th level. Individual basic attributes are improved. The upper limit of the number of arms is increased. the upper limit of the level of arms is increased, the building upper limit is unlocked, and the godhead function is changed. The original space is improved, and various abilities are changed. The level reaches the requirements, the kingdom system is unlocked, and the principality is officially promoted to a kingdom. The territorial scope is increased, and you can use this function to establish subordinate countries and develop the kingdom. Earn the title, demigod. Please go and check it out yourself. Boom! As the reminder sounded, the entire Lin You principality suddenly began to shake violently. The place that originally bordered the surrounding imperial principalities suddenly experienced landslides and rapid expansion. He actually built mountains and rivers directly around the principality of Lin You, expanding his territory 10 times. Together with the continental area of the entire primitive world, there was also a slight increase, squeezing towards the space on the original evil side. Lin You opened his mouth wide, his eyes full of shock. He had seen this scene once before. That was when Emperor Xin Yao was promoted to the emperor level. The realm space of the primitive world also experienced a large-scale increase. Lin You never expected that after upgrading to a kingdom, the system would directly reward him with a new territory. Fortunately, he was a little worried about not having the land to cultivate the principality, but it turned out that he was overly worried. The scope of the realm is originally determined by the number of high-level lords in the realm. After being surprised, he immediately calmed down and began to check the changes in the territory after the upgrade. In particular, the changes in his godhead are what he is most concerned about. After all, a complete plant-type godhead was synthesized from 10 fragments, so there would definitely be some changes. Moreover, as mentioned in the prompt just now, the functions of the godhead have changed. Obviously, the functions of the complete godhead are different from those of fragments, which made him vaguely look forward to it. Taking a deep breath, he directly called up the godhead interface. Name, godhead, plant department, level 11, 1/10. Feature 1, the attributes of lords and soldiers are increased by 10%. Feature 2, the upper limit of troop recruitment is increased by 10%. Feature 3, unlock the power of rules and use all skills of existing arms. The power depends on personal attributes and skill effects. Feature 4, unlock the power of space, freely travel through space, and have the ability to fly. The range depends on the coverage of the original space. Feature 5, unlock the personal attribute panel. Characteristic 6, increases damage to plants by 10%, reduces damage from plants by 10%, applicable to lords and all arms. Introduction. The plant-type godhead contains huge power of rules and is necessary for the upgrade of lords, above the 11th level. Really? The attributes of a complete plant-type godhead have undergone very significant changes. The skill power bonus of the third characteristic disappeared and became determined based on the lord's attributes and skill effects, which is a considerable weakening, but it adds a sixth characteristic, which increases damage to plants by 10% and reduces damage from plant attacks by 10%. Could it be that the complete godhead of each series will obtain similar effects? For example, if the angel godhead has plus 10% attack and plus 10% defense against angels, even though it is only 10%, this is absolutely terrifying for the 11th level, and may even affect the outcome of a battle, because the effects of godhead also apply to your own troops. Once you encounter an opponent with a plant-type godhead, if you don't have the godhead of the opponent's race, it will be a huge disadvantage. But in other words, those lords who do not have plant-type godhead will also be weakened invisibly when facing him. Certainly, the premise is that he must have the godhead of the other race. From this point of view, the value of the complete and designable godhead in his personal space is simply immeasurable, and he must carefully consider which race he should change to. Thinking of this, Lin You closed the interface and clicked on personal attributes with great anticipation. Name, Lin You. Lord, race, human, level 11, 1/10. Power, 500,000, plus 50,000. Physique, 500,000, plus 150,000. Agility, 500,000, plus 50,000. Spirit, 500,000, plus 50,000. Basic skills, multiple mutations, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, law of time, form a time domain within 12.5 meters around the body, change the flow rate of time, consume 10% of the power of rules per second, not affected by other than the law of time. Skill influence, the effect increases with the original space, the maximum time multiple, 3.5 times. Power of godhead, all attributes plus 10%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 20%, recovery speed plus 20%. Introduction, The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level lords, a total of 500,000 properties. Although Lin You had heard about the attributes of the 11th level for a long time, when he saw it with his own eyes, he was still extremely shocked. Thinking of his 9 10th level godhead fragments, he tried his best to kill monsters with 410,000 attributes. It is enough to show how difficult it is to cross the gap between the 10th level and the 11th level. Sure enough, the fact that the protagonist in the novel can leapfrog challenges is all a lie. But what surprised him was that, after reaching level 11, the racial talent bonus is directly increased to 20%. Although the increase was not as exaggerated as before the 10th level, it still greatly improved his survivability. Then there is the law of time. The range suddenly increased by 10 meters, and even the time flow rate doubled. The time flow rate is more than 3 times. Unless the agility of those 11th level lords is more than 3 times his, this is definitely a magical skill for escaping and saving lives. The changes in his divine personality and personal attributes were beyond Lin Yu's imagination and made him extremely surprised. After a long time, he calmed down and clicked on the territory interface to check name, world tree, territory, category, plants, level, 11th level, durability, 250,000, 250,000, plus 10,000, recruitment quantity, 19,000 25,000, plus 2,500, upgrade requirements, 500 billion magic energy, 5 million rule fragments, plants, 1/1, humanoids, 0/1, humanoids, 0/1, beasts, 0/1, insects, 0/1, undead, 0/1, machine, 0/1, element, 0/1, angel, 0/1, demon, 0/1. Introduction. The core of the territory has various functions. Sure enough, as he knew, if you want to become an emperor at the 11th level, you must collect the 10 series of godheads. In addition, 500 billion mana energy and 5 million rule fragments are needed. These resources are simply terrifying. With so many resources, magic energy is easier to obtain, but it also requires draining his bottom line, especially after the upgrade. He now only has about 300 billion left, which he still has to use to build 11th level legendary troops. In addition, the mutation of the 11th royal family requires a lot of resources, and it feels like it is a bit difficult to make ends meet. It seems that we need to cultivate a few principalities as soon as possible. Looking at the interface in front of him, Lin You fell into deep thought. As long as there are enough principalities underneath, the magic power and faith he obtains every day will definitely increase greatly, especially now that his land area has increased tenfold. The resource acquisition should be at least tenfold. After making up his mind, he didn't waste any more time, speeding up and continuing to check the changes in the original space. Name, world tree, origin, category, plants, level 11, 1/10, range, 10,000 kilometers, talent effect, physical fitness plus 20%, recovery speed plus 20%, ability, soul domain, racial talent, summoning space, storage, summary space, space channels, can be constructed within the coverage of the original space, continuously consuming the power of rules. Introduction. It is formed by condensing souls. When it grows to a certain level, it can evolve into a realm. Note, click here to expand the talents of each department. The range of the 11th level original space has skyrocketed to 10,000 kilometers, almost spanning 2 to 3 Shinu principalities before upgrading, and he has also mastered a skill called Space Channel. No wonder that when King Xinyao didn't become emperor, a space passage just grabbed him. It turned out to be because of this ability, but things are different now. Things are turning, and after being around for so long, it's finally his turn to catch someone else. For some reason, Lin You felt proud. Then he lowered his mind and entered the original universe, but was suddenly stunned by the scene in front of him. The scope of the original universe has been expanded 10 times, and the number of galaxies has skyrocketed to a very exaggerated level, forming splendid galaxies in this dark void. Under the world tree in the center of the universe, a vibrant green land was also born, shrouded in a semicircular light curtain spreading from the top of the world tree, separated from thousands of galaxies outside. It looks like a miniature continent, forming a high-dimensional space in the center of the universe. However, there is no life on this continent yet. There are only 10 royal families, and plant soldiers wandering around and playing in it. This was not what shocked Lin You the most. What shocked him the most was that on the branches of the world tree, in addition to the fruits of faith that had soared to 2,000, there was also a crystal shining with colorful light hanging on it. That's right, that turned out to be a genuine fragment of the godhead. It hangs so quietly on the branches of the world tree, and is particularly conspicuous among the large fruits of faith. On top of the world tree, fragments of the godhead actually grew. Even though Lin You was used to seeing strong winds and waves, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. He immediately came to the fragment of the godhead, whose light was still very weak, and checked the information. Fragment of godhead, unformed, a crystal formed by the power of rules. Only a world with relatively complete rules will be born. It takes a long time to cultivate and can only be used after peeling off. It is indeed a fragment of the godhead. Lin You looked at the information interface in front of him in shock. Although it is still an unformed fragment of the godhead, it is exactly the same as the fragment of the godhead they merged with. It made him even more confused. What level of existence is this original universe that can even condense fragments of the godhead? If other lords knew about it, it would probably cause an uproar throughout the entire Wanji continent. But at the same time, it also made him excited, because in this way, he has another way to quickly cultivate his confidence. I just don't know how long the formation cycle of this piece of divine head is. It seems that I need to pay more attention to it in the future. After carefully observing the half-finished godhead fragment for a while, Lin You exited the original universe and tried to calm down his excited heart. Then he looked at the newly acquired title of Demigod. Demigod. Title, Kingdom Faith gain plus 50%, can be effective at the same time as other titles. Not bad. This title, combined with the Certificate of Overlord and the National Treasure, is equivalent to 2.5 times the speed of gaining faith. Based on the duchy's tenfold faith of 200,000 per day, that is 500,000 faith, which is equivalent to 50 rule fragments. Of course, the premise is that there must be at least 9 principalities under him. After going round and round, we return to the Principality of Support. After this time's work is over, convene a parliament as soon as possible to summon all the 9th level lords, and a few confidants in the principality. Lin You thought silently in his heart. At this moment, the space not far from him suddenly cracked. "Bai, you are indeed upgrading to the 11th level." Before anyone arrived, the voice of Emperor Xinyao was already heard. Then in a flash, the powerful Emperor Xinyao appeared in Lin Yu's territory. "Why are you here, Emperor?" Lin Yu hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. "Do you think I can't come? You can upgrade to the 11th level without notifying me first." Emperor Xinyao glared at him fiercely. Then a huge sense swept across, and after detecting the aura in Lin Yu's body, a smile finally appeared on his face. "It's not bad, although it's a bit rushed. It shouldn't be a big problem." "It's not a big problem." "What do you mean?" Lin Yu asked doubtfully. "It's nothing. Haven't you been preparing to upgrade to the 11th level before? So I used some tricks to get you a piece of godhead from other series. I originally planned to give it to you when you upgrade, but this guy was promoted without saying a word. Did you know that a lot of people were watching?" Emperor Xinyao said, very unhappy. He is someone who has experienced the dangers of being promoted to the 11th level, so he is naturally very clear about it. Generally, when the emperors have people they want to train to advance to the 11th level, they will provide a certain degree of resource assistance to help them get through the most difficult initial stage. As the most promising person under his command to become emperor, Lin Yu naturally had to give him strong support to prevent him from dying in a few days. Godheads from other departments. When Lin Yu heard his words, his heart was shocked and he immediately became excited. "Here, I prepared it just for you." Emperor Xinyao didn't talk nonsense, and threw an exquisite jade box to Lin Yu. "There are regulations in the realm. The emperor cannot attack the lords below casually, otherwise they will be jointly attacked. I spent a lot of effort to get this, so don't die." Although he said this, Lin Yu could hear the concern contained in it. He suppressed the excitement in his heart, put away the jade box, and bowed deeply to Emperor Xinyao. "Thank you, Emperor. This godhead is really crucial to him. Not only can it greatly improve his strength, but it can also increase his probability of surviving the siege of other 11th level lords." And he also knew that it was not easy for the emperor to obtain this piece of godhead, because the godhead is the key to the road to the emperor level. The emperors certainly do not want other realms to obtain it, thus giving birth to a new emperor level. Therefore, an agreement was made thousands of years ago that the emperor cannot take action against the subordinate lords, otherwise they will be jointly attacked by all the emperors. This is something Lin Yu only recently heard from those old lords. It can be said Emperor Xinyao was one of the people who cared about him the most after he came to the primitive continent. Not only did he save him so many times, but he also gave him so many resources. Although Lin Yu didn't say it, in his heart he already regarded Emperor Xinyao as an elder and respected him very much. So this prayer is absolutely necessary. Okay, it's not a big deal." Emperor Xinyao waved his hand casually and looked at Lin Yu, who was paying his respects to him as an elder, and a smile gradually appeared on his lips. "You just upgraded, and still have a lot to do, so I won't affect you. I will help you get rid of those guys who want to come and annoy you. Just get familiar with the new level in the next few days. With that said, without giving Lin You a chance to react, he teleported and disappeared from the spot. It wasn't until he could no longer feel his breath that Lin You slowly straightened up. Taking a deep breath, he immediately turned around and came to the foot of the world tree, took out the jade box he had just given, and opened it carefully. The next second, a dazzling 7-colored light lit up, and at the same time, there was a ray of dark red light, and a godhead that looked like a treasure in the world gradually came into view. Demonic godhead. Lin You was pleasantly surprised. What he wants most now is the elements with fire attack capabilities, and the demon godhead, followed by the beast type with armor-breaking talent. These are races that are more aimed at his plant type. It seems that the Emperor must have taken this into consideration before specially getting him a piece of demonic godhead. Without thinking much, he immediately took out the designated piece of godhead he had obtained on the ladder and activated it directly. Would you like to use complete godhead? Specified? Use? Please select the specified race. Elemental system. Lin You hesitated for a moment and said, the reason for choosing the elemental system is not only because the flames of the elemental system are more restrained against plants, but there is another reason. The 11th level lord, who originally chased him in the realm battlefield, King Gale, it's elemental. And the moment his voice fell, the designated godhead in his hand suddenly erupted with a burst of colorful light, gradually tainted with a layer of power of the 5 elements, and floated quietly in front of him together with the demonic godhead. Then with a thought, the 2 pieces of godhead turned into flowing light and merged into his body. Boom! Huge power poured into his body and instantly flowed through Lin Yu's limbs and bones. The huge energy contained in the 2 pieces of godhead continued to impact every part of the body, which also caused Lin Yu's various abilities to increase rapidly. The aura of terror swept across the entire capital, shocking all the citizens and merchants to stop and look in the direction of the palace with horrified expressions. That's right, it's the 11th level aura. Your Majesty has risen to the 11th level. Outside the palace, Uedonin, who was standing with Shue Changui and other ministers, said in shock, level 11. So our Xinyu principality will be promoted to a kingdom. Shue Changui and other ministers were surprised and happy, and their breathing became a little rapid. That's a kingdom, an existence more noble than the principality. Unexpectedly, they would be able to see Huangsha City rise into a kingdom step by step in their lifetime. Even though Shue Changui was old-tempered, he couldn't help but feel like he was crying. Even his hands, which were leaning on rattan crutches, couldn't stop trembling. The others looked at each other excitedly and almost cheered loudly. And at this time, Lin You and the territory finally completed the fusion of the 2 divine heads. The various bonuses of the godhead soared to 30%, and the attributes skyrocketed. Then Lin You looked at the 2 newly fused divine heads, and it turned out to be exactly what he had guessed before. Demon godhead increases damage and defense against demons by 10%. The elemental godhead increases damage and defense against elements by 10%. Moreover, the value is fixed and will not become higher as the number of gods increases. Otherwise, 10 pieces of godhead would double the damage and defense, which would be a bit too perverted. It took Lin You nearly half an hour to sort out all the 11th level things. After confirming that nothing was missing, he summoned all the royal families to the territory. Now that all conditions for troop upgrades have been met, it's time to upgrade the royal family. Lingxi, you come first. Lin You said to Lingxi in the air. Good. Lingxi nodded slightly and slowly descended while surrounded by the breath of life. Lin You clicked on her attributes interface and found the upgrade option. Upgrading the arms to the 11th level requires 250 million mana and 1000 rule fragments. Do you want to continue? 1000 rule fragments is acceptable. Lin You did not hesitate and directly chose to confirm. The next second, the light comes on. Lynx's momentum began to increase. Other royal families gathered over one after another, staring intently at her changes. Unlike the major realm leap from 9 to 10, upgrading from level 10 to level 11 can only be regarded as a small level improvement. But despite this, the changes in Lingxi are still obvious. Not only have the 10 goblins around the body become much more solid, but even the vine staff in his hand has turned into an exquisite scepter inlaid with emerald gems. Paired with the luxurious costumes made of flowers and plants in the golden crown, he looked full of majesty. The only thing that hasn't changed is her body shape. After all, they are a clan of fairies, and the royal family are only slightly larger than ordinary fairies. But that's okay. When fighting, the body is lighter and not easy to be attacked. When the light faded away, a brand new attribute interface appeared in front of Lin You. Name: Fairy Queen Lingxi. Royal family. Race: plant. Hero. Level: 11th level. Strength: 460,000 plus 184,000. Physique: 460,000 plus 276,000. Agility, 480,000, plus 192,000. Spirit, 500,000, plus 200,000. Skills, natural control, top level, affinity halo, thorn entanglement, power of dominance, majesty of the king. Rule transformation, attributes can be improved by absorbing rule fragments. Natural envoy, the power of natural spells is increased by 20%. Introduction, the queen of the fairies, the supreme being, has a strong affinity for nature. The attributes of the 11th level Lingxi have also soared to nearly 500,000, and their strength has been greatly improved. Her name didn't change, though. Obviously, Fairy Queen is the highest level she can reach now. Lin You pulled the interface to the skill bar and took a look, and found that the skill effect was still the same as before, without much change. If you want to continue to enhance the skill effect, you probably need to increase the potential level, such as raising it from rare to legendary. The higher the potential level, the stronger the skill effect. This is the conclusion he came to through countless experiments before, and it is also the reason why the effect of royal skills is so much stronger than that of ordinary soldiers. I wonder if the royal family can continue to increase their potential level. Lin Yu couldn't help but think in his heart. Then he looked at Lingxi and tried to use his mutation ability on her. Mutation failed. The Lord level is insufficient, and the resources required for mutation are lacking. Mutation failed. Isn't it impossible to mutate? Lin Yu's heart was shaken, and his eyes suddenly widened. Could it be said that the royal family really has another level? It's just because he is not at a high level, and lacks the resources needed for mutation. This moment, as if Lin Yu had made some important discovery, his expression kept changing, and finally turned into a strong expression of excitement. But soon, he calmed down. According to the prompt, it is because of insufficient level and lack of mutation resources. Based on his understanding of the system, he didn't even specify what level was needed and what materials were missing. I'm afraid even the 12th level might not be able to do it. It's a little too early for him to be happy now. After calming down, he continued to recruit other royal families and upgrade them one by one. After all the royal families reached the 11th level, he also took out the remaining 200,000 rule fragments and absorbed them all directly. The absorption of rule fragments is completed, and a total of 800,000 points of enhanced attributes have been obtained. You can freely choose to enhance specified attributes through the connection with the original universe. Lin Yu has learned that any military unit that is integrated with the rules of the original universe will immediately gain attributes equivalent to the fragments of rules he absorbed. So there is no need to worry that the 11th royal family will not be able to enjoy attribute improvements. Taking a deep breath, he clicked on his personal interface and strengthened his physical attributes to full value. The remaining 300,000 was divided equally between his agility and spirit, which greatly improved his various attributes. Name, Lin Yu. Lord, race, human, level, 11th level, 3/10. Power, 500,000, plus 150,000. Physique, 1 million, plus 500,000. Agility, 650,000, plus 195,000. Spirit, 650,000, plus 195,000. Basic skills, multiple mutations, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, space channel, time law, power of godhead, all attributes plus 30%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 20%, recovery speed plus 20%. Introduction, the Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level lords. A total physique of 1.5 million. Lin Yu never thought that one day he would be able to achieve such high attributes. A monster at the level of the Chaos Original Beast is not even worthy of scraping him. Certainly. Lin Yu also knew that now was not the time to be complacent. According to the information he learned, almost 90% of the existing 11th level lords in the world have 3 or more godheads, because those with less divine power and less strength died, and they have lived for at least hundreds of thousands of years, and their attributes have basically been strengthened to full value. In other words, his full physique cannot be used as an advantage. Throw away the conventional skills that everyone has. With the blessing of Savage Roar, his attributes can be increased by 30%, plus 20% of his racial talent's constitution, which makes him 5 godheads. That is to say, it can almost withstand the attacks of 8 pieces of godhead, but there is a huge gap in attack ability. It is basically impossible to cause damage to the opponent except for the explosive skills of Cannon and Shadalis. So all he can do now is to survive until he has strengthened his attack attributes to full value, so that he can have the capital to challenge those old lords. And his advantage is the huge potential brought by the original universe and the royal family. The longer the time, the greater his advantage. Lin You had a clear mind and quickly had a direction. Then he took advantage of the situation and clicked on the cannon interface to take a look. Name, Explosive P King Cannon, Royal Family, Race, Plant, Hero, Level, 11th level, Strength, 690,000, plus 276,000, Physique, 678,000, plus 406,800, Agility, 640,000, plus 256,000, Spirit, 700,000, plus 280,000, Skills, Obsession, P-Shot, Penetration, Deadly Sniper, Space Compression, Rule Transformation. Attributes can be improved by absorbing rule fragments. Precision Strike, you can accurately lock on any enemy within range and attack its weak points. Introduction. The King of Peas has extremely terrifying long-range strike capabilities. When the level reaches a certain level, he can kill the enemy's head from thousands of miles away. After absorbing the rule fragments, the average attributes of all royal families increased by 200,000, basically reaching over 900,000. For those 11th level lords, this is still not enough, and they must continue to strengthen. Correct. Suddenly, Lin You slapped his forehead and took out the remaining 7 fragments of his godhead from his personal space. Since his original universe can condense fragments of godhead, why not first sell some of them to other kings, in exchange for fragments of rules? At the price of the godhead fragments, there should be no problem selling tens of thousands of rule fragments, not to mention maximizing all attributes, but also maxing out agility and spirit, so that you won't be left behind when escaping or attacking. As for the strength attribute, the worst thing you can do is don't rush forward in melee combat for the time being. Okay, let's do it. After finding a way to deal with it, Lin You suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. Immediately come to the world tree, and prepare to complete the last important thing, the 11th royal family, and the skill he will choose to use to make embryos this time is the 10th level skill of the cactus unit, Phantom Walker. The Phantom Walker effect of ordinary cactus is not as abnormal as the Shadalis one of the royal family, with only a 10% triggering probability and 80% of the body attributes, but there is no doubt that this skill is still very powerful. Moreover, after the troops are promoted to the royal family, the skill effects will also become stronger. Putting this skill on the royal family would definitely be an extremely terrifying weapon. This is something Lin You has planned for a long time, considering that the current mutation ability cannot be mutated repeatedly, and rule fragments need to be consumed each time. The 10th level ordinary arms are just right. He can still afford 2.5 million mana and 1 rule for a mutation. Do whatever comes to your mind. Immediately click on the recruitment interface and directly recruit 100 cactus troops using 250 million mana. Mutation of 10th level ordinary troops requires 2.5 million mana and rule fragments x1. Do you want to continue? Continue? Please choose to retain attributes and skills. The attributes are random. Keep the Phantom Walker. Mutation successful. Current troop type, Venerable Ancient Tree. Keep mutating. Lin Yu's voice kept ringing in the territory, and the cactus soldiers in front of him were constantly changing under the rays of light, mutating into various rare soldiers. Then Lin Yu was surprised to find out among the rare units with increased potential, in addition to the units that were originally at the rare level, some were actually upgraded from ordinary units to the rare level. For example, the Ancient Tree Venerable in front of him at this time should have been at the ordinary level. However, after the mutation through the mutation ability, the potential was directly increased to the rare level, and the effects of some skills were also increased from the original 100% to about 110%. The same goes for other arms, with their attributes and skill effects basically increased by 10%. Lin You understood this as an improvement in the level of life. However, the rare soldiers are of little use to him now, so he just studied and observed for a while, and then continued to mutate the remaining cactus. Mutation of 10th level ordinary troops requires 2.5 million mana and rule fragments x1. Do you want to continue? Mutation? Please choose to retain attributes and skills. The attributes are random. Keep the Phantom Walker. As rays of light lit up in the territory, the cactus soldiers in front of Lin You became fewer and fewer. If no royal family appears after the mutation of 100 animals, they will be repatriated and another 100 animals will be recruited for mutation. It continued to mutate in this way for more than 2,000 times. When he was about to spend all his rule fragments, a different prompt finally sounded. The mutation is successful, the hidden effect is triggered, the royal bloodline is awakened. The current unit is Emerald Dragon King, Green Dragon Royal Family. Lin You was stunned. He never expected that the 11th royal family would be this military unit. You must know that the previous 10 royal families are all mutated from ordinary soldiers, but this Emerald Dragon King is a real rare soldier, and now it can even mutate into a royal family. Is it because of the upgrade of mutation ability? Unfortunately, without giving him a chance to think too much, the Emerald Dragon King in front of him suddenly erupted with a dazzling golden light. Roar! The high-pitched dragon roar turned into a terrifying force that swept across the entire capital in an instant, spreading towards the Gobi Desert and mountains outside the capital, causing the entire sky to shake violently. Within 100 miles, no matter whether they were monsters or mounts and pets, they were all lying on the ground shivering, not daring to move, as if welcoming the arrival of the superior. This dragon's power lasted for nearly half a minute before finally dissipating, leaving the cultivators on the street with shocked faces. Stop talking about them. Even Lin You himself was shocked by the appearance of the new royal family. They truly deserve to be the dragon clan at the top of the food chain. They are just different from other arms. When all the golden light dissipated, revealing a huge creature that was almost twice the size of an ordinary green dragon, Lin You immediately stepped forward. Meet the master. The majestic and sonorous voice of the Emerald Dragon King sounded, his huge head prostrated on the ground, and he saluted Lin You respectfully. The green dragon legions in the sky also landed one after another, coming behind the Dragon King to express their surrender. No gifts. Lin You raised his hand slightly and his eyes fell on the Dragon King. In addition to being larger than other green dragons, it also has a fleshy crest on its head, which makes it look majestic. Since you are from the Dragon Clan, let's call you Qianlong. Lin You thought for a moment and said, "Thank you master for the name." Qianlong responded with a loud voice. Then, Lin You took him to the hero pool and transformed him into a hero unit. Then he spent resources to upgrade to level 11, and couldn't wait to open his attribute interface to view it. Name: Jade Dragon King Hidden Dragon. Royal Family. Race: Plant. Hero. Level: 11th level. Power: 700,000, plus 420,000. Physique: 675,000. Plus 405,000. Agility, 700,000, plus 280,000. Spirit, 650,000, plus 260,000. Skill, Phantom Walker. When attacked, there is a 50% chance to dodge the attack and generate a phantom that inherits all attributes and skills of the body, lasting 10 seconds. Super Regeneration. When injured, recover 10% of physical strength every second. Dragon Assault. A burst of natural power. The speed of all friendly dragons is increased by 50%. The first attack has a knockback effect, lasting 30 seconds. Air Overlord. The power of all friendly dragons increases by 20%, and the damage dealt to flying enemies increases by 50%. Destruction Dragon's Breath. Sprays a powerful life-devouring breath in a straight line ahead, causing 150% damage to the enemy's mental attributes. Rule Transformation. Attributes can be improved by absorbing rule fragments. Dragon's Wrath. Every time a friendly dragon dies, all attributes will increase by 5%, with a maximum of 10 layers, lasting 10 seconds. Introduction. The Green Dragon Clan, that controls the power of life, together with the Emerald Dragon Mother, are known as the Guardians of the World Tree. What a perverted skill. Lin You was shocked by the interface in front of him. Qianlong's 4 skills and exclusive talents are almost all enhanced versions of the ordinary green dragon, and they have all become Legion Link skills related to the Dragon Clan. Especially the Air Overlord not only improves the power of all dragons, but also has extremely terrifying suppression capabilities against flying units. It really lives up to its reputation as the master of the air. Not to mention the Dragon's Wrath talent. When fully effective, his attributes increased by 50%, which was stronger than Savage Roar. He immediately saw the hope of defeating those 11th level lords, and because of its connection with the original universe, Qianlong also received attribute bonuses from absorbing rule fragments, with all attributes approaching 700,000. He is also the second royal family besides Qinggong to have 2 full attributes. Is it this Phantom Walker skill that doesn't seem to match well with the flying class? Lin You frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, at this time, the Mushroom Demon King, who was dozens of times smaller than Qianlong, suddenly ran over. "Big man, it's up to you to take me to heaven from now on." As he said that, he hit Qianlong's ankle with his small fist, which happened to trigger the Phantom Walker effect and generate a giant dragon phantom next to him. When 10 seconds passed and the phantom disappeared, something unexpected happened to Lin You. Just listen to the phantom let out a high-pitched dragon roar, and then a red light suddenly appeared on Qianlong's body. and his momentum suddenly increased. All attributes increased by 5%. The Phantom of the Phantom Walker. It can actually trigger the effect of Dragon's Wrath. Lin You was surprised and happy. He didn't expect that the disappearance of the Phantom would be counted as a death effect. It was really a blind cat meeting a dead mouse. This way, as long as he continues to be attacked, and the Phantom Walker effect is triggered, Qianlong will become more and more courageous, which just fills the gap between his physical attack and aerial combat. Okay, let's go get familiar with them first. Lin Yu smiled with satisfaction and said to Qianlong, then click on the recruitment interface, recruit 100 willow soldiers, and use the last 1000 rule fragments to mutate the legendary soldiers. Mutating 11th level rare units requires 25 million mana and 10 rule fragments. Do you want to continue? So expensive. The expression on Lin Yu's face disappeared instantly, and he directly chose to continue. Please choose to retain attributes and skills. All random. As soon as the voice fell, a ray of light enveloped the treacherous willow in front of him, and his body began to mutate rapidly. After a while, a prompt sounded immediately. The mutation is successful. The potential level of the troop is improved. The current troop is Emerald Dragon King. Lin Yu let out a sigh and looked at the newly mutated soldiers. It turned out to be the legendary Jade Dragon King. Its attributes and skill effects were about 10% higher than the rare ones, reaching a level of nearly 600,000. It seemed that his guess was correct. The upgraded mutation ability can indeed mutate into advanced forms of ordinary and rare soldiers, which is the potential of legendary level. If you say so. If he gets legendary arms in the future, wouldn't he be able to mutate into arms with higher potential? This mutation ability seems to be far more powerful than he imagined. Lin Yu thought silently while continuing to mutate troops. As long as they were usable combat units, he kept them all, and incorporated them into the teams led by various royal families, especially the Green Dragon unit, which is one of the units he desires most now. Of course, the more the better. But what Lin Yu didn't know was, just when he was working hard to mutate his troops, all the information about him has been presented to the 11th level lords in various realms. In less than half a day, almost all the 11th level lords learned his basic information, and gathered together to discuss it. What do you think? In the original evil world, an 11th level lord asked in a low voice. We still lack a lot of plant-type godheads, so naturally we can't miss this opportunity easily. Another person followed. Indeed, it has been a long time since a plant-type godhead appeared in various realms, but the problem is that we are still in an alliance on the surface. How should we take action? And the news I received said that the new lord is highly regarded by Emperor Xinyao, and he is expected to have 2 godheads now. Don't worry, it's just 2 pieces of godhead, and it won't make any waves. Even if we don't take action, the Realm Alliance will definitely find an opportunity to take action. Do we want to miss this opportunity in vain? Wuya, you seem to be just 1 plant-type godhead away from taking that step, right? As he said that, everyone present looked at an old man sitting on the edge. The old man's aura was extremely powerful, stronger than any other lord present. If he felt it carefully, he was exuding the aura of the 9 godheads. Ahem. The old man coughed forcefully a few times, and his calm eyes slowly raised. I must get this godhead. After saying that, he ignored the reactions of others and directly tore apart the space and teleported away. The remaining people looked at each other in confusion, frowning, not knowing what they were thinking. Similar scenes were happening in various realms at this time, and many 11th level lords were moving to collect more information about Lin Yu. The whole world is in turmoil. Even those low-level lords can feel the solemn atmosphere. There are countless pairs of eyes staring at the primitive world, watching their every move. It was already past midday when Lin Yu finished mutating 100 legendary arms. Because the rule fragments are used by him to strengthen the relationship between attributes, he can only create so many legendary arms for the time being, including the previous batch of legendary units that followed the territory and were promoted to the 11th level. There are a total of 1,100. Among them, there are basically conventional combat units such as ancient trees, vines, flower essences, piranhas, mushrooms, dandelions, green dragons, peas, cactus, lanterns, sunflowers, nuts, and dark blue roses. And their attributes are around 600,000, which is much better than ordinary and rare units. It's just that this number is still too low for the 25,000 troops at the 11th level. When the time comes to meet those 11th level old lords, they may face the risk of being beaten by a group. Although ordinary soldiers pose little threat to him, being besieged by more than 20,000 11th level soldiers at the same time is still a bit too much. Even if each soldier scratches his skin, he can be scratched to death. What's more, what he is facing now is not just an 11th level lord. Forget it, just stay in the realm honestly. Outside the primitive world, Lin You cannot go out for the time being, because you can use your toes to know what is going on outside. So many people are probably waiting for him to show up, right? How could he have the nerve to go out if he didn't prepare a big gift? After thinking about it, he stood up and sat aside. Then click on the kingdom channel, think for a moment, and send a voice message. Lin You, King, all lords of the 9th level and above, and those of the 8th level responsible for local tax management, will come to the capital tomorrow morning to announce important matters. The kingdom channel was silent for a moment, and then immediately exploded. Damn it, it's the king, boss. The king has spoken. Wow. After coming here for so long, I finally see the king in person. All the high-ranking lords gathered here. Is something big going to happen? Does this need to be said? Isn't upgrading the kingdom a big deal? Is it about establishing a principality? It shouldn't be so fast, right? The lords on the channel were talking and shouting, and messages were passing by as if they were free of charge. They were all speculating on Lin Yu's purpose of summoning high-level lords, and the entire kingdom channel became extremely lively. And just then, a series of prompts suddenly sounded, interrupting all the lords' discussions. Lords, please note that the content of this monthly settlement reward has been announced. The kingdom will issue rewards based on strength ranking at the end of the month 5 days later. Please go to the kingdom ranking interface to check for details. What's going on? Why are the monthly rewards announced so early this month? Are there any new changes? It must change. After all, we are a kingdom now. Ah, last month I rewarded a lot of magic energy. Is it going to be doubled this time? After hearing the prompts in their minds, the lords were puzzled, and they all subconsciously opened the kingdom rankings to check. But when they saw the monthly rewards marked above, they were all shocked. Level 9. First place, Godhead Fragment X1. No. 2-5. Level 1 Upgrade Resources. Level 8, number 1-3. Level 1 Upgrade Resources number 310. Half level Upgrade Resources. Level 7. No. 110. Level 1 Upgrade Resources number 11-100. Half level Upgrade Resources. Level 6. Number 1-100. Level 1 Upgrade Resources. No. 101-1000. Half level Upgrade Resources. I'm not dazzled by this, am I? Quick, come and wake me up. Let me see if I'm dreaming. Worry. Actually directly reward the resources for upgrading to the first level. The top 1000 people will get a half-level upgrade reward. Fragments of Godhead. Is the 9th level list serious? Hiss. It's actually a fragment of the Godhead. In an instant, the entire kingdom's channel exploded, with a flood of news pouring in at a speed that was almost unreadable to the naked eye. As long as you get on the list, you can get half-level or even 1-level upgrade resources. Is there any crazier reward than this in the world? I'm afraid those empires may not be able to achieve such an exaggerated level, right? Especially after seeing the 4 characters, divine fragments, in the 9th level row at the top. I fell into a commotion. What are Godhead fragments? That is the symbol of the 10th level, the symbol of the principality. As long as you can get it, you can rise to the 10th level and successfully enter the level that all lords dream of. Now it is used directly to reward the person who ranks first in the 9th level. This is simply unimaginable, not to mention those 9th level lords who are hunting monsters on the border. As soon as he received the news, he hurried back to the kingdom to confirm the authenticity of the matter. When they learned that this was true, all the 9th level lords went crazy and were extremely excited. Soon, this news spread to other principalities through the Imperial Channel, and it immediately caused an uproar. You actually use fragments of the Godhead as a reward. Are there still a whole level of upgrade resources? Isn't this too exaggerated? Fuck. I will apply to move to Shinyu Kingdom right now. And me. Count me in. The entire empire was in a commotion, and everyone was going crazy. The kings of the principalities were also shocked. They did not expect that Lin Yu would make such a big move just after upgrading the kingdom. Where on earth did he get so many resources? I am afraid that other 11th level old kings may not be able to get such a huge resource at once, right? Not to mention using it as a monthly reward in the kingdom. Unfortunately, no matter how they discussed, Lin Yu had already closed the interface and went to the territory to do other things. Until the afternoon came, he just walked into the portal with the remaining fragments of his godhead, and was transported to the long-lost sanctuary. At this time, the sanctuary is no longer as prosperous as it was before due to the changes in the monster plane. But after all, it is the center of the mainland. Walking on the street, you can still see pedestrians coming and going, and shouting. Many cultivators and lords who don't like fighting gather here to open shops and do business. You can even see 10th level lords passing by from time to time. Lin Yu followed his memory and quickly went to the system auction house set up in the center of the city. He placed 3 of the godhead fragments on it, set it to trade only the rule fragments, and used the bidding method for 3 days. As for the remaining 4 pieces, he was temporarily keeping them to train his subordinates to establish a principality. If there are gaps in other godhead fragments, we can only wait for the output of the original universe. According to his observations during the past half day, it should not take many days to form a piece. After doing this, he used magic energy to buy some low-level resources as backup, then teleported away and rushed back towards the kingdom. And not long after he left, 2 10th-level kings happened to walk into the auction house together, clicked on the transaction interface, and planned to buy something there. Suddenly, one of the kings noticed the new items on the product list, and froze in place. Then, his eyes suddenly widened. Lao You, come and take a look. His voice was trembling, and he waved desperately to his companions beside him. What's wrong? I was so surprised. This is not like you, old who. Could it be that someone is selling fragments of the godhead here? The king, known as Lao You, said jokingly, and walked over to take a look at the auction interface in front of Lao Hu. As a result, when he saw it, his expression suddenly froze on his face, and then his eyes immediately widened. Fuck! An unabashed swear word spread throughout the entire auction house hall, attracting the attention of everyone in the hall. And not long after that, the news that 3 fragments of godhead appeared in the sanctuary auction house was like a hurricane, instantly sweeping through all the principalities on the primitive continent, causing an uproar among the principalities. In the sanctuary auction house, someone is actually auctioning fragments of the godhead, and it's 3 yuan at an auction. With such shocking news, not to mention the kings of the principality, even some 11th level kings rush towards the sanctuary. No way. Godhead fragments are too precious. Many people keep it for themselves even if they have it, or simply absorb it, but I have never seen anyone selling it directly. This is simply a waste of natural resources. They were also shocked. Who was so arrogant that he actually took out 3 fragments of the godhead for auction? Could it be a certain emperor in the realm? Could it be him? In the royal palace of the Great Wilderness Principality, Jizing looked at the news in front of him in confusion, and a figure immediately appeared in his mind. Not long ago, news came from the Xinyu kingdom that Lin You was using fragments of his godhead as rewards, and now I heard that someone was auctioning fragments of his godhead in the sanctuary. These 2 things happened too coincidentally. Thinking of this, Jizing immediately closed the message interface, tore open the space and disappeared the other side. Lin Yu was studying the 11th level arms in the Tower of Arms, when a report suddenly came from outside. Your Majesty, King Dawang wants to see you. Jizing, why did he come here? Lin Yu raised his head in confusion, casually arranged the last research task, and walked out of the Tower of Arms. Let him wait inside the main hall. The main hall of the palace was where he usually discussed state affairs with his ministers. Jizing had taken good care of him at first, so naturally he couldn't neglect it. After a brief preparation, he teleported into the main hall, and happened to meet Jizing walking from outside. Jizing, who was still looking around, saw him appear, and his heart suddenly shivered, and he immediately stepped forward to salute. Stop it! Don't do this to me. As soon as Lin Yu raised his hand, an invisible force dragged Jizing, and stopped his movements. You have a different status now, so you still need to have these etiquettes. Jizing smiled and slowly straightened up. At the same time, I sighed in my heart. Back then, Lin Yu was just an inconspicuous little lord in his principality. The result was unexpected. In just over 3 years, he has already stood on a higher position than him, and has become a being that even he looks up to. It is really embarrassing. Just tell me what you want to see me for. Lin Yu said straight to the point. I just came here to ask if you have any extra fragments of the godhead in your hand. I want to buy one from you. Jizing said with an embarrassed look. With his capital, there is definitely no way he can compete with other established kings for the 3 divine fragments of the sanctuary. But he didn't want to miss this opportunity, so he came to ask with the mentality of giving it a try. Want to buy divinity from me? Lin Yu's eyes moved and he looked at Jizing in surprise. Yes, you also know that girl Yunshuang will be promoted to the 10th level recently. If she only has 1 fragment of her godhead, I'm afraid she will be in danger. Jizing sighed. Probably because he was talking about his daughter's relationship, he changed from his previous restraint and became worried, with worries in his eyes. I see. Is she also going to be promoted to level 10? Lin Yu suddenly understood, and a smile gradually appeared on the corner of his mouth. No wonder Jizing came to find him personally. It turned out to be for this matter. Calculating the time, Ji Yunshuang should indeed complete the path to becoming a saint. After all, there have been frequent wars recently and there are monster invasions, which is a good time to accumulate a lot of resources. Coupled with Jizing's continuous training and assistance, there should be no problem in completing the path to becoming a saint. Ji Xing was really worried about his daughter, but since it was a fragment of the godhead prepared for Ji Yunshuang, he naturally would not refuse it. He thought for a moment and said, I can sell you one piece of 5,000 rule fragments. 5,000. Ji Xing was shocked and looked at Lin You in disbelief. It's not because it's too expensive, it's because it's too cheap. A 10th level lord needs 50,000 rule fragments to strengthen his attributes to full value. Therefore, the value of a godhead fragment that can increase attributes by 10% must be higher than 1/10 of this number, which is 5,000 rule fragments. But the reality is that the value of godhead fragments is often much higher. It is absolutely impossible to get it for less than 10,000 or 20,000, and it will even be even more expensive for those who are in urgent need of godhead fragments. After all, things like godhead fragments are inherently priceless, and it is difficult to buy them even if you have money. Lin Yining gave the price of 5,000, which was basically a free gift. The most important thing is that he actually has extra fragments of his godhead. Ji Xing was shocked and asked excitedly, are you really going to sell it to me at this price? Is it too expensive? Lin Yu asked. No, it's not expensive at all. I just happened to save a lot of rule fragments from the monster invasion place recently. I can still get it for 5,000, Ji Xing said quickly. At this moment, he didn't know that Lin Yu gave him such a low price because of old feelings. He couldn't help but feel happy, grateful for the wise choice he had made. Although it was just a small and insignificant favor, he had given a lot of help to Lin Yu's growth. Now, in just over 3 years, he has achieved more than he expected. This deal is worth it, that's all. After the two of them chatted about Ji Yunshuang's news and the establishment of the principality in the main hall, Ji Xing left in a hurry with the godhead fragment he got from Lin Yu. Lin Yu also got 5,000 rule fragments from him, which solved his urgent need. Then he only had to wait for the auction of the 3 godhead fragments to be successful. Originally, Lin Yu wanted to replace all the godheads with rule fragments to enhance his strength, but considering that we still needed to establish a principality and find people to help manage the newly expanded territory, we finally kept 3 pieces. In addition to the piece in the original universe, there are 4 pieces in total. Establishing 4 principalities first should be enough for the time being. Think about it. He summoned Shue Changgui and other ministers to discuss the next division of the land. In a blink of an eye, the night passed. When the sun rises in the sky, the sunlight shines through the Gobi to Huangsha city. The high-ranking lords in the kingdom of Xinyu all arrived on magic airships or mounts, and gathered on the platform of the flying dock. As soon as they landed, the acquaintances of the lords began to greet each other. Hey, isn't this the king of Jiuku City? You were so far away from the capital, and you can come here so early. It's really you, old Wang. I heard that you were transferred to Jiuku City a few days ago. It's a very lucrative territory. Are you doing well recently? Ha ha. It's not bad. Thank you His Majesty the King for taking care of me and entrusting me with such an important city to take care of. Didn't I receive His Majesty's order and rush here before dawn? At least I caught up. The 8th level lord known as Lao Wang was transferred to Jiuku City a few days ago, and he can be regarded as an old man in the Xinyu kingdom. Therefore, he is in charge of the local taxation in that area, which makes other lords envious to death. After all, Jiuku City was built on the Jiuku River and adjacent to other principalities. The water transportation and cross-border trade alone were both extremely rich, and many high-ranking lords were vying to move there. But in the end, Lao Wang got an advantage. No wonder their words sounded a bit sour. The other side of the platform, 20-odd 9th level lords from the kingdom also gathered together and discussed in low voices. I don't know why the king summoned us suddenly. It should just be a routine meeting, right? After all, there are a lot of things to rearrange in the newly promoted kingdom. I think it may have something to do with that new land. Is it going to establish a principality? As soon as these words came out, the 9th level lords were all shocked, but at the same time they couldn't help but look forward to it. If the territory expands tenfold, a principality must be established to help manage it. Otherwise, the kingdom would not be able to allocate so many people at once for such a large territory. In other words, it is really possible that this Congress is just to discuss this matter. Immediately, the 9th level lords looked at the 3 leading figures, Yan Wu, Yin Tianj and Bai Haitang. Don't look at me, I don't know the purpose of this Congress. Yan Wu shrugged. Actually, we are just like you, we have just received the news, Yin Tianj said immediately. When everyone heard this, they suddenly became confused. Didn't the 3 of you once have a fateful relationship with the king? And you don't even know about it. The 3 Yanwu people and His Majesty the King belong to the same novice area, and it is no longer a secret that they have had life and death encounters. They thought they would know something, but the result surprised them. Where Brother Wei and Brother Meng, your Moyuan City and Shuani City are closest to the capital, and they were cultivated by the king himself. You should know something, right? Then, The lords looked to Wei Jun and Mung aside. At this time, with the support of Lin Yu's large amount of resources, the two of them, like Yanwu and others, had become 9th-level lords, responsible for governing the areas surrounding the capital. It can be said that he is an important minister of the country. However, what they didn't expect was, upon hearing their inquiries, Wei Jun and Mung also shook their heads helplessly, saying that they did not know anything. From this point of view, we can only find out after the Congress begins. I've kept you waiting for a long time. At this moment, an old voice sounded, interrupting Evrion's discussion. Shihua Changui appeared with an elite team and came to the flying dock. Behind him, rows of twisted plants followed closely, and then a strong wind swept across, and huge plant dragons roared past. Level 11. Everyone was shocked and frightened by the terrifying plants. Even if one of these soldiers is sent out at random, they can all be destroyed directly. Where have they ever seen such a huge welcoming battle? He was suddenly so frightened that he didn't even dare to raise his voice, and Judu looked at the soldiers with a look of horror. Finally, Yanwu and the others, who often came to the capital for business and were familiar with Shihua Changui, were the first to speak out. Manager Shihua, why did the king summon us this time? Yin Tianj asked in a low voice. This, you will know when you see his majesty. Please come with me. Lords, your majesty has been waiting in the hall for a long time. Shihua Changui didn't say anything more, but made a gesture of invitation. The lords looked at each other, but they could only bite the bullet and follow the plant team. Under the leadership of Shihua Changui, they mounted flying mounts and rushed to the city. It didn't take long. The entire team entered the palace and came to the main hall used for meetings. At a glance, they saw Lin You leaning on the throne to check the interface of the kingdom. After feeling the terrifying aura that enveloped the entire hall, all the lords held their breath and slowly walked into the hall. Oh, you're all here. At this time, Lin You noticed them and closed the interface in front of him. Everyone, take a seat. I came here just to discuss something with you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone did not dare to stay, and immediately led by the attendants, they sat down on the tables and chairs that had been arranged on both sides of the hall. After everyone was seated, Yanwu finally couldn't help but ask, what is the purpose of the king summoning us this time? When the other lords heard this, they immediately looked like they were listening, and they all looked at Lin You intently. Actually, it's not a big deal. Lin You smiled slightly. I believe you all know that there is a large area of empty land around the kingdom. I plan to establish 10 principalities, so I will tell you about it first. 10 principalities. The lords were shocked and all showed shocked expressions. You know, a principality cannot be established just by saying it is established. Even if there is a land, there must be a lord who can reach the 10th level, otherwise no matter how much land there is, it will be in vain. Just like the former Shenyao kingdom, it took nearly 3 years to gather 10 principalities. The most important key is that the path of Saint mission is too difficult, and not many 9th level lords can complete it. No wonder they were so shocked when they heard that Lin You wanted to establish 10 principalities. Unexpectedly, at this time, Lin Yu's conversation suddenly changed. Yanwu, Yin Tianj, and Bai Haitang, you have been helping me take care of my affairs since the establishment of the principality. You are also the people I trust most. If I ask you to help me take care of 3 of the principalities, can you do it? Help take care of the principality. What's the meaning? Yanwu and the others were secretly startled, and immediately stood up and looked at Lin You, their faces full of doubts. But the next second, including them, the eyes of all the lords in the entire hall suddenly widened, because at some point, 3 crystals shining with colorful light suddenly appeared in Lin Yu's hand. It just floated quietly in front of him, its appearance constantly changing, making Evrion's hearts beat wildly. Godhead fragments. Those are actually 3 fragments of the godhead. The lords stood up suddenly, and looked at the fragments of the godhead in front of Lin Yu, with great shock, and their eyes almost popped out. Thank you to the leader of Tiantian Great Sword for the reward. Are these fragments of godhead given to us? With a grunt, Yanwu and Yin Tianj couldn't help but swallow. Even Bai Haitang, who had always been cold-tempered, was extremely moved, and looked at the colorful crystal in front of Lin Yu, with trembling eyes. Only when you reach the 9th level, can you realize how difficult it is to complete the path to becoming a saint? It would be impossible for ordinary lords to accomplish this, without the support of amazing opportunities, and large amounts of resources. Now I saw 3 fragments of the godhead placed in front of me. How can they not be shocked? Not to mention the other lords, whose eyes were filled with undisguised desire. How about it? Help me take care of the principality. Can you do it? Lin Yu asked again, causing the 3 of them to wake up. Yes. Don't say one. I can take care of 3. Yan Wu said quickly. Me too, Yin Tianj said immediately. I have no problem, Bai Haitang said calmly. Without exception, the eyes of the 3 people were full of determination. The other lords nearby cast envious glances. After obtaining these 3 fragments of the godhead, they can be promoted to the 10th level in one fell swoop, and establish their own principality. This was definitely something that countless lords dreamed of, but they didn't expect it to come true so easily. While they were envious, they couldn't help but feel a little excited, because the king just said that he would establish 10 principalities. In addition to these 3 confidants who have been with the king through life and death, there are still 7 positions. Even if you include Wei Jun and Meng Qingyan, the 2 subordinates who have been working beside the king, and the monthly top reward, there are still 4 positions. This opportunity is undoubtedly huge for them. They have never been so grateful for their original decision as they are now, and they are grateful that they have stayed in the principality and not moved the territory. If the lords who moved away heard the news, they would probably be so regretful that their intestines would turn blue, right? He actually missed such a huge opportunity for promotion. Fortunately, they were very discerning and could tell at a glance that His Majesty the King was no mortal, so they finally chose to stay. Think of this, all the 9th level lords suddenly felt proud, and Lin Yu's next words gave them even more reassurance. In this case, I will keep these 3 fragments of Godhead for you first. These resources will be used by you to complete the path of saints, so that after upgrading, you can have 2 fragments of Godhead at once. With that said, he put away the fragments of his Godhead. Then with a wave of his hand, 3 resource balls appeared out of thin air, and slowly fell in front of Yanwu and the others. This was a resource storage prop made with a magic tower. Lin Yu saw that it was good, so he made a few of them, and filled 3 of them with enough resources to allow them to pass the path of saints. Thank you, King. The 3 of them were so excited that they quickly took the resource ball, and checked the resources stored inside. This was unbelievable, and the 3 of them froze in place, with shock on their faces. There are not many things in the resource ball, only 3 items: magic energy, fruit of faith, origin crystal, but the amount of these resources completely shocked them. Counting carefully, there are 50 fruits of faith, each of which can be exchanged for 10,000 points of faith, which is 500,000 faith, which just reaches the full value of the 9th level. What shocked them even more was the origin crystal. With the original space range increased by 1 kilometer, there are actually 200 extremely rare top-level crystals, which is equivalent to 20 times the initial range of the 9th level. Counting various bonuses, it can completely enhance the attributes of them and their units to nearly 50,000. Killing the F-level 10th level boss demon is no longer a problem. Completing the path of sainthood is even easier. Such huge resources may not even be available to those veteran 11th level players, so why should they be handed over to them like this? And it's 3 servings at a time. This moment, Yanwu and the other 3 were shocked. It is completely unimaginable why Lin Yu, who has just been promoted to the 11th level, has so many resources. If this is revealed, I am afraid it will cause an uproar. But at the same time, I was extremely excited, because in this way, they can complete the path to sainthood that many people dream of. Get 2 fragments of the Godhead at once, and their strength will be greatly improved. How about it, taking into account these resources? Are you sure that you can complete the path to sainthood before the monthly settlement? At this time, Lin Yu's voice sounded again. After the monthly settlement, it was time to recruit new lords. He had to establish 3 principalities first, and yesterday he also released the authority to enter the new territory, and a large number of people and forces, large and small, have begun to pour into it to develop and build in the various territories he divided. After all, for many people, the emergence of a new land symbolizes various opportunities, which will naturally attract many people to come in and want to be the first to get a piece of this cake. Therefore, establishing local order is his top priority. Don't worry, with these resources, I can finish it directly when I get back today, let alone 5 days, Yan Wu said very confidently. As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar in the hall. Complete the path of the saint in 1 day. What exactly is inside those 3 resource balls? Unfortunately, without waiting for them to discuss, Lin Yu continued, okay, then I will wait for news from you. After saying that, he looked at Wei Jun and Meng Qingyan on the other side. The same goes for you too. You have been working under me for so long. Are you interested in helping me manage the principality? Boom. With a muffled sound, Meng Qingyan hit his knee on the corner of the table, and stood up from his seat with excitement on his face. I am willing to serve your majesty as hard as I can. As he said that, he straightened up immediately, his face flushed. The other lords nearby were filled with envy and all looked at him. They have all heard about Meng Qingyan's deeds. As a person who came to the world at the same time as His Majesty the King, his talent is not that outstanding, and his city is not very deep. It is not even an exaggeration to say he is mediocre, but it was such a person who was supposed to be cannon fodder on the battlefield. But with his cautious character and a pair of discerning eyes, he established a good relationship with His Majesty the King from the beginning, and finally managed to reach his current status. It's really sad to say it, maybe this is where he is better than others. Immediately afterwards, Wei Jun stood up slowly, and bowed deeply to Lin You. The grace of knowing and finding someone is as good as your Majesty's will. At this time, Wei Jun was no longer the ignorant young man, who had just been recruited by Lin You, and had become more mature and sophisticated. His eyes just fluctuated for a moment, and he suppressed the excitement in his heart without showing it. Good. Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction, then waved his hand, and 2 resource balls, that were the same as before, slowly floated in front of them. These origin crystals were all dropped by him when he killed a large number of Lord monsters some time ago, and some of them were exchanged for fruits of faith at the sanctuary auction house. It cost him nearly 4,000 fruits of faith, which was enough for 5 people. 4,000 rule fragments can be exchanged for 5 divine fragments, which is much cheaper than buying divine fragments directly. The only pity is that he doesn't have many fruits of faith in stock, and there aren't many origin crystals in the auction house. Otherwise, he could help more people complete the path to sainthood. So after thinking about it for a moment, he said to the remaining lords, "You don't have to be envious. Next, I will issue a piece of godhead to the person who tops the 9th level combat power list every once in a while. For the remaining 5 places, choose from here. You are all old people, who have been with me for so long and have worked hard for so long. I hope you won't let me down." Every once in a while, a godhead fragment is distributed. All the lords were shocked and immediately became ecstatic. I thought that establishing 5 principalities at once was the limit, but I didn't expect that there would be additional rewards of divine fragments. With excitement, the lords' faces suddenly turned red, and they wished they could run back immediately and try to improve their strength. After all, there are only more than 29th level lords in the kingdom now. In addition to the 5 places that have just been determined, there are less than 20 left. 1 in 4 probability. This is definitely a huge opportunity for them. Okay, let's stop talking about the principalities affairs here, and then let's talk about other things. After explaining the affairs of the principality, Lin Yu didn't say any more nonsense. The topic shifted to various matters of the kingdom, and began to explain the tasks one by one. That's all. It lasted until noon before the Congress finally ended smoothly. After the lords resigned from Lin Yu, they all left the palace and hurried back to their respective territories. Especially Yanwu and others who had obtained the resources were eager to get on their flying mounts and leave, preparing to go back and start the road to sainthood. The eager look immediately caused the residents near the palace to talk about it. I thought something big had happened. After they all left, Lin Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. It took 2 days to finish all the trivial matters in the kingdom. What he has to do next is to wait for them to complete the path of saints, establish the principality, and then recruit a group of new lords. Once the kingdom is on the right track, he can harvest more resources and concentrate on improving his strength. Think of this. He took a look at the situation in the original space. After a night of cultivation, the light of the godhead fragment on the world tree became much more solid. At this rate, it should be fully formed in less than 5 days, just in time for monthly reward distribution. Let's check out the equipment first. Lin Yu thought silently, calculating the time. There were 3 days left until the date Magan had agreed with him. Now that I have some free time, I can go to the Dwarf Kingdom to see the progress of building his piece of equipment. 11th level equipment is very scarce, and basically the old 11th level lords only have 1 or 2 pieces on them, because there are so few people who can make them. Therefore, the improvement of this piece of equipment is crucial to him, as it can at least improve his strength considerably. Without hesitation, he teleported away and disappeared. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of heavy knocking continued to echo in the underground furnace of the Dwarf Kingdom. Lin Yu walked through the passages and soon came to the forging room where Magan was, and happened to see him tapping the edge of a piece of armor with the God of War hammer. His expression was serious and solemn, and he didn't notice him coming in at all. Obviously, creating level 11 equipment requires a lot of effort, so Lin Yu did not disturb him, but quietly came to sit next to him, used the power of rules to isolate the heat around him, and waited patiently. They say that building equipment is very boring, and if you don't really love it, you won't be able to stick to it. Lin Yu finally saw it with his own eyes today. A full half day. Magan has been immersed in equipment building, hammering, pouring, shaping, and hammering again, repeating these actions countless times. Finally, when it was completely dark, the God of War suit on Magan's body suddenly lit up, and his aura suddenly surged. Immediately afterwards, a huge, scorching regular force emerged from his body, pouring into the dark armor in front of him, causing the armor to make a loud clang. It actually slowly floated up from the forging platform, bursting out into a dazzling light of various colors. Lin You recognized this light. Astonishingly, they are the 10 major forces of chaos primordial. When the light dissipated, the armor fell back onto the forging platform. The dark appearance was also dyed with a faint dark golden texture, and the aura gradually converged. Have you been waiting for a long time? Until then, Manga, who was immersed in making equipment, finally put down the hammer of war and looked towards him. Lin You immediately stood up and came to the forging platform, staring at the armor in surprise. Has it been built? As you can see, the process went much smoother than expected, so it was completed 3 days in advance, Manga said proudly, reaching out to wipe the sweat from his forehead. His face was slightly pale, his steps were a little sloppy, and he looked very weak. Obviously, even with the blessing of the God of War suit, creating 11th level equipment is a very consuming task for him. Upon seeing this, Lin You immediately stepped forward and cast several healing spells on him. After the huge breath of life enveloped him, his expression finally softened a little. Have you reached the 11th level? Feeling the aura on Lin Yu's body, Manga asked in surprise. Yes, I was promoted just a few days ago. I was afraid of disturbing you, so I didn't notify you. Are you surprised? Lin You smiled slightly. After being overtaken by Manga for so long, he finally caught up, giving him the feeling of regaining face. Manga didn't know what he was thinking, and immediately said in annoyance, just be proud of yourself. When I reach the 11th level, we will see how you can catch up. The God of War suit has the attribute of level +1, so when he reaches the 11th level, his strength will directly reach the 12th level, and he will officially become the 4th great emperor among the aborigines. When the time comes, you can catch up even if you don't want to. However, Manga did not stop at this topic, but pointed at the black armor with restrained light. Let's first see if the equipment is suitable. I used the 10 core parts of the corpse to build it. I combined the 10 major forces to finally build it successfully. Thanks for your hard work. Lin You thanked him and took the armor. The equipment was very heavy to hold. As soon as I touched it, I immediately felt the 10 forces surging crazily on it, and even the power of his rules was almost sucked in. But these 10 different forces are now perfectly integrated into this piece of equipment, complementing each other without any signs of collapse. It's enough to show how powerful Manga's creation methods are. Without hesitation, he immediately clicked on the interface to view the equipment attributes. Equipment name, Armor of Creation. Equipment level, 11th level. Characteristic 1, for each series of gods you possess, damage received is reduced by 2%. Characteristic 2, for each series of gods you possess, the effect of being under abnormal control is reduced by 10%. Characteristic 3, for each series of gods you possess, the recovery speed of the power of rules increases by 10%. Characteristics, Halo, equipment effects are effective for all arms. Characteristic, unique, after wearing this equipment, all other equipment will be invalid. Introduction, armor made from the 10 creative forces. Its effect will continue to increase as the user controls the number of forces. So strong. Lin You looked at the attributes of the equipment in front of him in shock. The 3 attributes, damage reduction, control immunity, and recovery, are all the attributes he needs most now, and they will increase exponentially with the number of gods. When the god is full, he is directly immune to all abnormalities and controls. The recovery speed of the power of rules is doubled, and the damage can be reduced by 20%. Taking out any attribute at random is extremely terrifying in the 11th level, let alone 3 of them together. You must know that, when he was at level 10, the abnormality of the Holy Spirit Stone was reduced by 25%, which was already very abnormal. What shocked Lin You even more was the last Halo characteristic. Equipment effects take effect on all arms. Is this the equipment created by the 10 forces? Simply outrageous. Under this abnormal attribute, the last feature of wearing the only one is almost negligible. How's it going? I followed your ideas and tried to make it as defensive equipment as possible. Are you satisfied with it? Manga asked at the right time. Satisfied, very satisfied. Lin You nodded heavily, overjoyed. The effect of this equipment is much better than I expected. The first 2 characteristics can be said to have greatly improved his life-saving ability, making him less passive when facing those 11th level lords. The third characteristic, the restoration of the power of rules, extends the duration of the law of time and his long-lasting combat ability. Definitely one of his most urgently needed effects right now. Just be satisfied. This is my work of confidence. Manga grabbed a handful of his beard and looked proud. This creation armor cost him a lot of energy, so he was naturally very happy to get Lin Yu's approval. After he finished speaking, his spirit, which had been tense for more than 10 days, finally relaxed, and he swayed on his feet. Lin Yu's expression changed and he immediately came over to support him. "Are you okay?" "It's okay." Magan raised his hands slightly and stood up straight again. "It's just a bit exhausting. Just rest for a few days. It's really hard for you this time," Lin Yu said gratefully. Although Magan has the blessing of the god of war suit, his strength has reached the 11th level. But after all, he is only at level 10. And building 11th level equipment is not as easy as it seems. "This time I really owed a huge favor. It's not hard work. Just don't forget my fortified food and ale. £1,000,000 is not enough to replace this equipment. Okay, I can give you as much as you want, right?" Lin Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even now, he was still thinking about his food and ale. This guy was really addicted to alcohol. Seeing that he looked weak, he didn't say anything more. After sending him back to the palace to rest, he hurriedly said goodbye and left, heading back to the territory with new equipment. In a blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Just when Lin Yu was sitting in the main hall, discussing the new land plan with the ministers, the news that Yanwu and the others had completed the journey of becoming saints finally came back. Without exception, all 5 people successfully condensed the fragments of the godhead to this end. Lin Yu also took the time to hold a founding ceremony for them respectively, and gave them the 5 most fertile lands around the Xinyu kingdom. They were also named Yanwu Principality, Yintan Principality, Haitang Principality, Dawei Principality, and Shuani Principality. The news that the Xinyu kingdom had established 5 subordinate principalities at the same time spread throughout the primitive continent, causing an uproar again. "You actually established 5 principalities at once. What a great gesture. How come King Xinyu has so many resources to support his men? He has just upgraded to the 11th level. Shouldn't he use resources to improve his strength? I was promoted to 5 10th levels at once. I guess those 9th level lords, who had moved out of Xinyu kingdom, will cry to death. Haha." The lords of various countries talked a lot. Some were shocked, some were confused, and some were gloating. In one fell swoop, the kingdom of Xinyu became the focus of the entire primitive world. The news even spread outside, causing those 11th level lords, who had been secretly inquiring about the news, to frown. Especially the people from the original evil world looked even more gloomy. "HMPH, I want to see how long it takes for him to hide before he comes out. Do you really think you'll be fine if you keep hiding in the realm? Don't worry, I found a way to force him out." In each realm, there are basically several great emperors guarding them. Even if they were given 100 courages, they would not dare to easily enter the primitive realm. But this time it was different. Several 11th level lords from the original evil realm all sneered, seeming to have found a way to force Lin Yu to leave the realm. A devil's claw is quietly reaching towards the kingdom of Xinyu the other side. Lin Yu, who had no idea, had just finished the founding ceremony of the 5 principalities and was on his way to the Holy Land. Because today is the day when the auction of divine fragments ends soon, he came to the Holy Domain auction house, walked through the crowds of people, coming and going to the counter, and click on the transaction interface to view it. Suddenly, Lin Yu let out a sigh and looked at the transaction amount in front of him in surprise. 3 godhead fragments actually sold for 90,000 rule fragments. That is, each piece is sold for an average of 30,000 yuan. Are these guys crazy? Lin Yu was shocked. He found that he still underestimated the Lord's demand for the fragments of the godhead. 90,000 rule fragments, which is nearly 50% more than the 60,000 he expected. Even if the 5% handling fee is deducted, there is still 85,500 yuan. This is much higher than using it alone to trade with other kings. Counting the more than 4,000 yuan he had accumulated in the past 2 days, it would not be a problem to strengthen the second attribute to full value. Without thinking much, he immediately extracted all the rule fragments, then left the auction house, and rushed back to the territory. Unexpectedly, when he returned to the territory, he suddenly felt a familiar figure walking back and forth in the hall, seeming very anxious. This person is none other than Sidu Jian, whom we had not seen for a long time, when we parted on the ladder to heaven. "Lin Yu, I finally waited for you." Seeing Lin Yu appearing in the main hall, Situ Jian, who was pacing back and forth in the main hall, was shocked and hurriedly came up to meet him. From his face, Lin Yu could see eagerness and panic, as well as a little hesitation. "What happened?" Lin Yu asked directly. Before entering the hall, the attendant waiting outside the hall had already explained the whole story to him, saying that Sidu Jian had been waiting here for more than 2 hours. It didn't take much to figure out what was going on as expected. Hearing his inquiry, Sidu Jian immediately said hurriedly, "It's Yan Lai. Yan Lai's sister was kidnapped by people from the original evil world. He ran over to fight for his life, but was severely injured. The other side even called you by name. We won't let him go until he comes over." Yan Lai's sister. Lin Yu was slightly stunned, but he didn't expect Yan Lai to actually find his sister in the living world. But immediately, his eyes narrowed. Yan Lai was severely beaten and asked to go there in person. For such a simple game, even a fool could tell that it was specifically targeted at him. It didn't take much to figure out that it was related to those 11th level lords. Situ Jian obviously understood that this was a trap, and his face was full of guilt. Yan Lai originally told Lin You not to tell Lin You before he left, but when his friend was in trouble, he really couldn't do anything to save her, and there was no other way. Sorry, I have already begged my father, but he is unwilling to help, so I have no choice but to come to you, he said unwillingly. At the same time, he lowered his head and clenched his fists tightly, feeling a deep sense of powerlessness. Have you visited your father? Lin Yu frowned when he heard this. You know, although Situ Jian didn't say it, he was a person with strong self-esteem. Even if it meant his death, he would not surrender to Emperor Zhongfeng, and would even sever the relationship between father and son. But now he put aside his dignity for his friend Yan Lai, and went to Emperor Zhongfeng humbly, which shows how determined he is. At the same time, Lin Yu could also feel his contradictions and hesitations at this time. Obviously he didn't want to drag himself into the water, but he really had no other way. You don't need to apologize. It's me who should apologize for getting you involved in this matter. And Yan Lai is not only your friend, but also my friend, Lin Yu said extremely seriously. If this matter really needs to be reckoned with, it still started because of him. Yan Lai and the others were only involved because they were related to him. We've already reached this situation and we don't want to get him involved. How could he have any reason not to save such a friend? It seems that I stayed in the realm for too long and they can't wait any longer. Lin Yu's face was gloomy, and a cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The murderous intention spread out and enveloped the entire hall in an instant. Situ Jian, who was in the midst of self-blame, was shocked and raised his head suddenly. Are you really going to save him? This is obviously a trap for you. Why don't you think of other ways? It's okay. I have my own sense of discretion. Lin Yu raised his hand to interrupt Situ Jian's words. Don't they want me to go there alone? Then I'll go meet them, and tell me the location. To this day, he has no choice but to leave the realm. Fortunately, he had made countless preparations for this day, and his strength was no longer comparable to that of the newly promoted 11th level lord. It's time to take this opportunity to let those who are watching eagerly know that he, Lin Yu, is not so easy to mess with. Soon, he learned from Situ Jian the specific location where the Yan Lai brothers and sisters were trapped. After settling down Situ Jian, he took the newly acquired rule fragments to the foot of the world tree and started absorbing them directly. Absorption is successful and 358,200 attribute points are obtained. Please go to your personal space to choose enhanced attributes. More than 89,000 and nearly 90,000 rule fragments gave him more than 350,000 attributes at once. Click on the personal interface and enhance 350,000 to the mental attribute, which just reaches the full value of 1 million attributes. The remaining 8,200 points are all used to strengthen agility. In the blink of an eye, his entire spirit seemed to be cleansed and became clear, and even his reaction speed became much faster. Name, Lin Yu. Lord. Race, human. Level, 11th level, 3/10. Power, 500,000, plus 150,000. Physique, 1 million, plus 500,000. Agility, 658,200. Plus 197,460. Spirit, 1 million, plus 300,000. Basic skills, multiple mutations, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, space channel, time law, power of godhead, all attributes plus 30%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 20%, recovery speed plus 20%. Introduction. The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level lords. A physique worth 1.5 million yuan, plus a spirit worth 1.3 million yuan. It has only been less than 5 days since I upgraded to level 11, and I have successfully enhanced these two attributes to full value. This is not to say unprecedented, but it is also absolutely unprecedented, regardless of other regular strengthening skills that everyone has, only counting his extra royal skill Savage Roar, which increases his basic attributes by 30%. That's a total of 1.8 million physical and 1.6 million spiritual. It has almost caught up with the 1.9 million attributes of the $9 godhead, coupled with the 6% damage reduction attached to the armor of creation that he just acquired. It is basically impossible to break through his defense without using powerful skills, without having 8 pieces of godhead, and with a mental strength of 1.6 million. It is not impossible to kill lords with 5 pieces of godhead or less. Besides, the basic attributes of all royal arms have been increased by 90,000, again, reaching 740,000. With the 4 bonuses of 30% godhead, 10% soul tide, 20% racial talent, and 30% brutal roar, the physical constitution can reach about 1.4 million, not to mention how much of a threat it can pose to high-level 11th level lords, but it is at least equivalent to a 4 godhead lord, and 11 4 godhead lords. Even if he is attacked by the 9 godheads, he will not be defeated for a second. What's more, the damage reduction effect of the armor of creation is also useful for soldiers, which greatly improves their survivability. Coupled with the 1,500 legendary troops that were mutated a few days ago, and the 10,000 ordinary troops summoned with magic energy, this is Lin Yu's current combat power. Originally, he wanted to create more ordinary soldiers to fill up the number. However, the magic energy and rule fragments have been basically spent, so they can only recruit 10,000 directly. But it's not a big problem. If quantity is not enough, quality makes up for it. Okay, it's time to go meet them. After making all preparations, Lin Yu slowly stood up, his expression extremely serious. Then he slowly walked into the teleportation gate on the side, and was directly teleported into the main border city. Aha! There was a flash of light. Lin Yu had already arrived at the teleportation square of the main city. At this time, half a month has passed since the monster invasion began, but in the teleportation square, people are still coming and going, and the flow is endless. There were constant shouts in the ears, and many lords were recruiting teammates in the square, and setting up stalls to sell various treasures obtained during the monster invasion. In the sky, there are a large number of flying mounts soaring, coming and going. It is very spectacular. However, Lin Yu just glanced around briefly and disappeared instantly, teleporting towards the location provided by Situ Jian, and soon entered the original evil realm, the other side. In a small city on the border of the original evil realm, the 5 11th level lords of the original evil world gathered together, and sat in a luxurious conference hall. "Do you think that guy will take the bait?" one of the younger lords said. "Sometimes, the simpler the trick, the easier it is to succeed," another middle-aged man said immediately. "Indeed, it's not a disadvantage for us anyway. It's better to try than to wait. What if that guy really comes over?" "Yes, if you continue to wait like this, I'm afraid people from other realms will attack you in advance." The 5 11th level lords present are not all of the original evil world, but without exception, they all lack the plant godhead, especially the old man known as Wuya, who leads him is only one piece short of a plant-type godhead to successfully step into the emperor level. As for the other 4 people, except for the young lord, who spoke first, who has 4 pieces of godhead, the rest all have 5 or more pieces of godhead. It can be said that the lineup is extremely luxurious. Any 11th level lord would basically choose to stay away if they encountered him coming. Suddenly, the old woman sitting in the corner opened her eyes, and looked in the direction of the primitive world. Everyone else was shocked when they heard this. They felt carefully, and sure enough, there was a powerful aura approaching, and soon it came to the sky above the wasteland outside the city where they were. "It's not the aura from our realm, it's that guy coming over." The 5 people in the hall stood up suddenly, their faces full of excitement. They didn't expect that Lin Yu would actually risk his own life, and die for 2 low-level lords, who were worse than ants. No words were needed at all. He immediately teleported, and disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in the wasteland outside the city, and happened to run into Lin Yu who had just arrived. Lin Yu, who was flying, also stopped, and stared at the 5 people in front of him calmly. "You were the one who kidnapped my friend?" he asked straightforwardly, showing no fear at all because of the number of people on the other side. "Bo, you." The demonic middle-aged man was about to speak when he suddenly noticed a bloody figure trapped in space beside Lin Yu. After feeling the aura from the original evil world on the figure, the expressions of all 5 people changed, because that person was clearly one of the 10th level lords with 9 fragments of godhead in the original evil world. "If you don't want him to die, just let my friend go." Lin Yu's cold voice sounded, watching them silently. He caught this 10th level lord on the way. It was also thanks to these guys who neglected their duties, and no one was guarding the border of the original evil realm, that he succeeded so easily. "Help me." The 10th level lord stretched out his hand tremblingly, making a hoarse sound in his throat, but he was unable to move because he was trapped by the power of space. "Boy, do you know you were playing with fire?" the middle-aged man said with a gloomy expression. "Playing with fire? Didn't you ask me to come here?" Lin Yu smiled slightly, raised his arm, and with a pop sound, a huge wooden thorn instantly penetrated the 10th level lord's thigh, exploding a large pool of blood. "Ah!" the 10th level lord screamed, his breath even weaker. "Boy, how dare you!" the middle-aged man roared angrily and wanted to take action. but was immediately stopped by King Wuya beside him. Go and let him go. Compared to two people who were worse than ants, a lord close to the 11th level was obviously worth more. Anyway, their goal has been achieved, and there is no need to lose a high-ranking lord for this. At the same time, several people were secretly frightened. They did not expect that the newly promoted 11th level king of the primitive world would be so ruthless and would directly take action at the slightest disagreement. I am afraid that he would become a huge threat to them in the future. This way, it's even more difficult to leave him alone. Just when Lin You was in a stalemate with a few people from the original evil world, Yan Lai, covered in blood, appeared outside the city with the support of a girl in a long skirt. Didn't I tell you not to come? Why did you come here to die? Yan Lai used his remaining strength to shout at Lin You. His eyes widened angrily, and then he coughed violently. Brother, don't move around. Your injuries haven't healed yet. The girl quickly stepped forward to hold him up, but how could her petite body block Yan Lai's burly body? He immediately led him limping to the place where several people were confronting each other. If you hadn't said this, I probably wouldn't have come. Lin Yu glanced at him silently, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing a living person, he finally felt relieved. But before they could communicate more, they heard the old man opposite say in a cold voice, "Can we let him go now?" As he spoke, a terrifying aura erupted from him, causing the air around him to tremble. 9 pieces of godhead. Lin Yu was shocked. Although he had thought that he would meet a strong man of this level, when he felt the other person's aura, he was still shocked and extremely solemn. With his current strength, even with the blessing of Savage Roar, there is still a big gap between him and the 9-piece godhead. He can barely get close to it only with his physical constitution. Although the other 4 people did not show their aura, they were obviously not simple people, and there was probably going to be a fierce battle next. After taking a deep breath, he said, "Let them leave to the primitive realm first. Boy, don't go too far." The demon lord spoke again, his demonic energy surging crazily. Lin Yu didn't speak, but stared at the old man steadily. Obviously, this old man is the leader among these people. "Let them go," King Wuya whispered. For him, the plant godhead is greater than anything else. As long as Lin Yu can be kept, nothing else matters. The reason why I wanted to save the 10th level lord was just that I didn't want to waste a high level combat power in vain, so as to save myself from being talked about so very quickly. Brother Yan Lai was let go by them, and staggered to Lin Yu. Yan Lai stared at Lin Yu, with red eyes, as if wondering why he came to die, because he knew very well that the guys on the opposite side were here for Lin Yu. So he asked Situ Jian not to pass this matter back, but Lin Yu still came. It made him angry, but also very worried. After all, there were 5 11th level lords on the opposite side. "Let's leave here first. I'll be fine," Lin Yu said with a smile. Then he waved his hand, and directly summoned a legendary emerald green dragon. Yan Lai hesitated for a moment, but finally clenched his fists. "Don't die, otherwise I won't be able to spare you." Of course he knew that staying here would only become a burden. Without any more nonsense, he took his sister Yan Ru, and walked towards the emerald green dragon. Before leaving, Yan Ru turned around and glanced at Lin Yu. She did not speak, but put her hands on her waist, and bowed slightly to Lin Yu, as a gesture of gratitude for his life-saving grace. It's hard to imagine that such a dignified and gentle girl could be the sister of a rude man like Yan Lai. "Go ahead and take care of your brother. Don't let him run around." Lin Yu nodded in response, and then an invisible force wrapped the 2 of them and put them on the back of the emerald green dragon. They flew high into the sky in a roaring wind, and rushed back towards the primitive world. The 5 people on the opposite side were attracted by the emerald green dragon, with expressions of surprise on their faces. "I can't find any information about this green dragon," the demon lord whispered. "I can't detect it either." The old woman on the side followed closely, her voice sharp and sinister. "There are only 2 possibilities for not being able to detect information. One is a prop that obscures the rules, and the other is something outside the rules." The stern man standing in the corner, shrouded in black mist, said calmly, "It seems that he is not simple. Please pay more attention later," King Wuya warned. The other 4 people had different expressions. Some were solemn, some were indifferent, but they didn't say anything more. When the emerald green dragon saw off the 2 of them, it flew back again. The demon lord finally spoke again. "Boy, can you let him go now?" The 10th level lord had been controlled by Lin Yu. At this time, he was taking in more air than out, and looked like he was dying. Although the 10th level lord is still like an ant to them, but if the other 11th level lords knew that they couldn't even defend a single border, they would probably become a laughing stock. When the time comes for the emperor to blame him, it will not be easy to explain. "Let him go." Of course. A smile appeared on Lin Yu's lips again, and the 10th level lord finally escaped from his control, and slowly flew to the opposite side. However, at this moment, his expression suddenly turned cold. Stretching out his palm, He grasped the air suddenly, and with a bang sound, the 10th level lord didn't even have time to scream, and exploded into a ball of blood mist, leaving a fragment of his godhead floating in the air. Several people in the original evil world were stunned for a moment, and then their aura suddenly exploded. Boy, you are looking for death. I won't let you stay today. At this moment, the anger in their hearts was finally completely detonated, and the surging aura exploded on their bodies. Then the surrounding space distorted, and hundreds of thousands of 11th level troops appeared out of thin air, quickly surrounding Lin You. If you want my life, you have to pay a price. Lin You didn't say any more nonsense, and put away the fragments of his godhead. With a thought, 11 royal families and an army of plants appeared instantly, and with the blessing of brutal roars, they headed straight towards their troops. You want to stop us with just these troops? Die! Just hearing the demon lord yell angrily, the demon army turned into a black torrent, and crashed into the ancient tree army at the front. Fire exploded in the sky, and large sheets of lava and sky fire roared in. Lin You focused his gaze, and finally detected the opponent's specific strength. In addition to the elemental old man with 9 fragments of godhead, the middle-aged man of demon type in front of him has 7 pieces of godhead. The old woman of insect type, and the man of undead type have 6 pieces of godhead. The remaining mechanical lord, who seemed to be the youngest, had 4 pieces of godhead. Such a luxurious lineup is really impressive to deal with him alone. Master, let me deal with him. At this moment, Qianlong, who had just joined the team, took the initiative to ask for help. With loud dragon roars, the legendary dragon army roared past, and faced the demon army. I'm here to help too. The mushroom demon king revealed a head on the back of the hidden dragon, and led the mushroom army to ride on the back of the green dragon. Each one held explosive mushrooms in their hands, and threw them towards the demon in front. Boom boom boom. The violent explosion echoed in the ears, causing the space to crack open. The demon army that had just rushed up was blown back in an instant, and the one at the center of the explosion of the mushroom demon king was killed on the spot. As the dragon king, Qianlong rushed out of the team and collided with the demon lord, who was about to attack. What? The demon lord's expression changed, and he was shocked by the speed displayed by Qianlong. What shocked him even more was that the attribute-reducing effect of the demonic talent did not have much impact. As soon as he deployed a blood shield in front of him, Qianlong's dragon claws filled with great power slammed him away, causing a large number of cracks in the blood shield. The 2 royal families surrounded him on the left and right, and fought fiercely with the demon lord in the air. Just as the remaining 3 people were about to attack, they were also entangled by 2 royal families, and they were inexplicably shocked. There's something wrong with these arms. The strength has actually reached the level of 4 pieces of godhead. This is impossible. The appearance of the royal troops completely shocked a few people in the original evil world, because this was the first time they had seen a military unit that could reach such strength. Although it was not enough to threaten them, the 2 together gradually entangled them, and they were unable to escape for a while. Even the soldiers below are blocked by a group of soldiers whose attributes cannot be detected. Led by a huge vine monster and a strange and twisted dandelion, a fierce battle broke out in the wasteland. There is a tenfold difference in the types of troops, but there is a faint tendency to be blocked. It seems we underestimated you. High in the sky, King Waya, who was confronting Lin You, looked at the scene below, his eyes slightly focused. I thought that Lin You was just a little lord, who had just upgraded to the 11th level, and could do whatever he wanted, but he didn't expect that he actually had such amazing strength, and that he had 1 more godhead than what was reported, up to 3, which really surprised him. But it was just an accident. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole person disappeared in an instant and came behind Lin You. So fast. Lin You was shocked. Is this the speed of full agility? There was no time to avoid it, and a vast force of 5 elements exploded behind him. With a bang, the space was shattered, and Lin You crossed his arms and rushed out, with a trace of blood hanging from the corner of his mouth. Just 1 blow broke through his defense. You must know that he is now under the blessing of Savage Roar, and the explosion is at full blast. Moreover, he happens to have elemental godhead on him, which can reduce the damage of elemental attacks by 10%. Even in this way, you can't completely block the opponent's attack. It's simply terrifying. 3 pieces of divine power can block my blow, which is not bad. King Wuaya praised him, and without giving Lin You a chance to breathe, he flashed and disappeared into the air again. For a moment, the old man's figure kept flashing, and the wind blades all over the sky gathered in the air, attacking Lin You from all directions. Everywhere he went, holes were cut into the space, and the turbulent flow of space blocked almost all of Lin Yu's paths. Under such intensive attacks, Lin You had no choice but to defend himself, and kept using his skills to resist the wind blade. However, the strength gap between the 2 is too great, even far beyond Lin Yu's expectations for the full godhead lord. With all attributes crushed, he could only fall into a passive situation of being beaten. Just as he was about to teleport away, he was immediately blocked by the opponent. After a while, a large number of wounds appeared on his body, and his clothes were dyed red with blood. "What's wrong? Weren't you very capable just now?" King Huai's voice sounded in the void. With the blessing of the wind element hurricane skill, the speed was extremely fast, even reaching the point where it could not even be captured by perception. Boom. At this moment, there was a loud noise from below, except for King Gong, who had the highest defense, and Wang, who was in charge of the 4 godhead lords. The other royal families retreated violently, all covered with wounds. Even the Qianlong, blessed by Dragon's fury, was knocked to the ground by the demon lord's blow, smashing into large rocks. In the blink of an eye, Lin You and the royal family were in a precarious situation.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.